Hey, we're cooking with gas here. On the Jewcast.
Okay, careful using a phrase like that.
This trial is a travesty. It's a travesty of a mockery of a sham, of a mockery of a travesty of two mockeries of a sham.
Tradition!
Oh, shut up, Carl! Shut your goddamn Jew mouth! You people are why there's war in the Middle East!
Gekakken auf een jam.
Nebbig.
Ver poepoepoe.
Vermischt.
Verkakt.
Vertutzt.
Verstonken.
Farted.
Exactly.
You're what Grammy Hall would call a real Jew.
Oh boy, here we go again. Another Jewtastic episode of American Jew coming at you.
Straight from a sukkah. No, we're actually not doing this in a sukkah, but it is still Sukkot, and we're hoping everybody's having a great one and enjoying their time in the Jew shacks.
I tell you, walking down the street, you see all the restaurants with the outdoor dining. It's like every restaurant has a sukkah right now.
No, it's true. I feel you. I was walking around too and be like, wow, I didn't realize so many restaurant owners were Jewish in the city. But yeah, basically you can celebrate the holiday by just eating any place in New York. I mean, I don't know if they have the skach covering, but they got a 3-wall structure. Let's take what we could get at these COVID times.
Exactly. Bring your own decorative gourds to put up and, start
Absolutely.
speaking.
I haven't been, I guess I wasn't approached this year by any of the Hasidic Jews to shake a lulav and etrog. I didn't do it. I'm okay with it, but I guess it's probably not the best time to be handing things to tons of people.
Right. I guess that's probably true. They're not, they're not inviting you onto the RV to fill in.
No, they're definitely not inviting us these days.
Also, they look for Jews in public spaces. I haven't actually been out and about for, very long to be able to be approached. But normally they approach me because I definitely look Jewish. But when I'm wearing a mask, maybe less so. Although I am wearing, I do wear the Spaceballs, the face mask. So, it's probably not a lot of goyim wearing that.
That's true. I feel like this is a good segue into this Jews in Space exhibit that's going on in Baltimore, which kind of highlights, Jews' involvement both in space travel and science fiction. And it is actually very interesting, from Jewish filmmakers like Steven Spielberg and Stanley Kubrick to Isaac Asimov. How do you say his name?
Asimov, right?
Asimov, a sci-fi writer who was Jewish. And, of course, I guess, there were apparently in the Talmud, it has some of the first story of time travel where Moses travels 1,400 years in the future to talk with a Jewish scholar. And, of course, one of the most famous things, I guess, is Leonard Nimoy's Vulcan signal. It was inspired by the Kohan Gadol, a symbol that they did with their hands, and that's become a huge part of pop culture. And of course there's been Jews, there was a Jewish woman on the Challenger, may she rest in peace, and other Jews space travel. But it's just interesting that Jews have had such a big influence on kind of this genre of science fiction. In fact, a Jew came up with the term science fiction.
Is that right? I didn't even realize that.
Yes, a Jewish person came up with the term science fiction when he had, in the 1920s, the first sci-fi magazine.
Okay.
So that's very good. Of course, Jews in Space is taken from a Mel Brooks short.
Well, it's from the History of the World Part 1. It was sort of a teaser trailer for the Part 2 that never came out. And
okay.
I have to say, I am impressed that they included that as part of the exhibit. You can't call it Jews in Space and not use the sketch that it takes its name from. So, I'm full of nachas to know that they've done that,
Are you full of pride?
Yeah. I mean, if you're going to call it that, I like the title, Jews in Space, members of the tribe in orbit. I mean, that's pretty cool.
I like it too. I guess you could see how Jews, in the diaspora could feel a little bit like aliens.
Yeah, well, I kind of like the thing that they say about the guy, the Jewish Museum deputy director, talks about how the whole idea of being an alien, someone who doesn't belong, that's trying to find their way and navigate the pressures of assimilation, resonates with Jews in America or within any other diaspora. And I think that's it's part of our culture to be the other and to try to find ways to be accepted. Not necessarily just assimilation, but, to find our place in the world.
Well, we are still trying to find our place in the world, and it is not easy. And in New York, it's we're kind of having a I don't even know what to say because, Jews are upset about, new restrictions that they feel they're being singled out for. They, protested the other night in the street. They were burning masks, which is just the stupidest thing, in my opinion. And they actually beat up two other Jewish people who, one was a reporter, one was just filming it. The guy who was filming it was in critical condition. The reporter escaped, but he did get beat up a little bit. And they are Jews, and that's just crazy, Jew on Jew violence. They were calling them snitches. But just to resort to that kind of violence, especially because, anti-Semitism's real. Like, why are Jews giving people more reasons to, hate them? And the truth is, I'm sorry, I am on de Blasio, Cuomo. I'm on the city's side for this. I don't think this is at all anti-Semitic. Of course, Trump is now trying to politicize it and say that, what does it remind you of? And they're a bunch of anti-Semites. He actually tweeted that de Blasio was an anti-Semite. But they're not. The Jews have been super spreaders from the beginning of this. They do not show the care and concern that they should. One of the reasons why these people got beat up is because they were filming people not wearing masks, and they were saying you're a bunch of snitches. And they're just trying to have, stop coronavirus, which is spreading and is picking back up in New York City. And, the Jews are just, they don't care about social distancing, wearing masks. Of course, a lot of Orthodox Jews, they just want to put their fate in God's hands. And I think that this is just all ridiculous. I feel like their protesting is causing anti-Semitism. I feel like them beating up is causing anti-Semitism. I feel like the Jews just have to say, suck it up. Yeah, maybe we can't all celebrate Simchat Torah this year, and there's only going to be 10 of us allowed in the synagogue, but we can't be spreading coronavirus. People are dying.
It's really crazy to see, how much resistance there is from the Orthodox community to be part of the entire community. I think, we talked about this a few weeks ago when we had Donnie Zoldan on about how, if you go to some of these really religious neighborhoods, people are not wearing masks. They are, they don't realize the level to which they're spreading it. And because we're in Brooklyn and we're in these neighborhoods that are, connected to other neighborhoods, it's not just spreading within that community, it's getting out. And I think...
No, for sure. You're right. There are other people living in the community. It's not just Jewish people. And we don't want it just to be amongst Jewish people. And, I'm so sick of this excuse. The Orthodox Jews are using it now. The people that, are against mail-in voting are using it. They're like, the protesters were allowed to protest. Why are we getting singled out? Just shut up. That's just a dumb thing. The protests were all outside. People were wearing masks. People were more aware of social distancing. And I'm sorry, you Jews aren't. And you know what? As a Jew, I'm sorry, but these Jews, make me not like Jews. I got to be honest.
That's the thing. It's hard to defend these practices that are putting people in danger while at the same time trying to defend just being Jewish.
Well, I'm just so sick of Jews throwing around anti-Semitism when things aren't at all anti-Semitic, and it takes away when things are really anti-Semitic, and there's enough anti-Semitism going along in the world that we don't need to just say, something's not going our way, it's anti-Semitic. And you know what? When Jews do that, it makes me anti-Semitic. Jews are supposed to care for the sanctity of life. It's supposed to be a huge priority in Judaism, and having these COVID precautions are part of it. So instead of arguing, why don't the Jewish leaders, why don't, the people in Brooklyn, these Hasidic Jews, step up and show the world, hey, we are going to do better with social distancing. We are going to wear masks. We are going to stop the spread in our areas. Instead of fighting against it and being like, they're anti-Semites, and then Trump saying, look, they're gathering them up like Nazis. Shut the fuck up.
This pandemic has seen all of the major Jewish holidays just about. We've been here
since
all
the holidays for everybody. Easter got fucked too,
I'm just saying, though, we haven't come up on Christmas or Thanksgiving or New Year's or some of the other big, holidays. But for the Jews, we had Passover. Now we just had the 2 high holy days. Now we have Simchat Torah. We've Sukkot. It's hard to tell the ultra religious how to celebrate that stuff, how to commemorate that. I think the Jews have never been very. I feel like religion in particular, not very good at explaining why we have to do these things. It's like we've talked about before, all of the notions behind why we question things are to understand the rituals and not to understand the reasoning behind it. Like, no, you don't have to. Don't because God said so. That's why.
And stupid Donald Trump is going to try to use this to get Jews to vote for him. Meanwhile, first of all, there was a sukkah hop for Jews of color in support of Joe Biden that took place before the vice presidential debate last night, which I think is nice. That's nice to see that. Jews of color, of course, are marginalized by not only the world, but by the Jewish community itself.
Right.
So it's nice to see them doing something proactive for a better world. And hopefully Joe Biden will become president.
What does that mean? It's like crashing other sukkah parties?
I don't think they crashed it, but they went from sukkah to sukkah.
We don't have our own sukkah.
All over the world.
Yours.
See, there are many Jews that that are voting for Trump, both because especially ultra-Orthodox Jews are conservative and they think what he did for normalizing relations with the UAE and bringing the embassy to Jerusalem is good. I mean, I like personally, I don't really think it was that amazing. I mean, yeah, Trump did a good thing. Wow, a broken clock is right 2 times a day too. But the Jewish Democratic Council put out a spot which was pretty cool, where it has Trump talking about COVID, dismissing it, taking from the Bob Woodward quote, saying, it's not a big deal. It is what it is, all that stuff. And meanwhile, it has the mourners Kaddish going over it because they're pretty upset about, 210,000 people being killed by COVID.
It's a powerful message, I mean, even if you don't know the Kaddish and recognize it, that music and that tone is,
it's ominous.
It is ominous. Yeah.
It definitely is. So, I mean, it is moving. It is a moving ad. I hope they're doing it in swing states. I'm hoping people will vote for Joe Biden. I know it's hard. My crazy ignorant family in Florida, they're voting for Trump. It's heartbreaking. It's very upsetting.
It's crazy too. Like everybody, so many Jews try to tell, like, well, obviously Trump loves Jews because he has Jewish grandkids. But
that's what Mike Pence said at the debate last night too. It's like,
first of all, I don't even know these fucking kids' names. Like, I've never heard Trump even talk about them. He barely talks about. He won't even talk about his favorite parts of the Bible. So, like, he
even said they could have the bar mitzvah at Trump Tower, but they're going to have to pay double.
Well, all those, the event spaces, they definitely jack up the rates for the bar mitzvahs. But he doesn't talk about his connection to Judaism whatsoever. It's never even really mentioned that his daughter is married to a Jew or that he has Jewish grandkids, unless it's to defend him against people who think he's anti-Semitic. There's nothing pro-Judaism about him.
Yeah, I saw a tweet that said, "My grandchildren are Jewish" is the light version of "I have a black friend."
Okay.
So Sukkot is ending, the Jewish Harvest Festival, and it ends with the celebration Simchat Torah, one of the most joyous days in the Jewish calendar, a day of partying. Simchat Torah is when we finish the cycle of the Torah. I mean, if you were listening to us from the beginning, we used to talk about the Torah portion every week. It's something that the Jews do. So after a year cycle, it ends and they start it again. So that's kind of what they're celebrating on Simchat Torah. They kind of parade around with the Torah. There's a lot of drinking going on. That's one of the first times I got seriously drunk as a child.
Yep.
Was on Simchat Torah, so that's going to be celebrating this weekend. We hope everybody has a nice Simchat Torah. And then there's Shmini Atzeret, which is also part of it, which is, I mean, there's not a lot going on Shmini Atzeret, but I think it's really now they make a blessing about the rain. It's the beginning of like the rainy season in Israel.
Well, let me just say also, we based on, because of what we talked about at the top here about, Jewish areas that are not paying attention to a lot of the COVID restrictions. If you're going to go out and celebrate for Simchat Torah this weekend, make sure you're safe. Make sure you wear a mask. Make sure you social distance. There are ways you can get drunk and pass it on your own lawn. You don't have to go somewhere else.
Absolutely. with your friends or with your family, your immediate family. You could celebrate with them. You don't have to gather huge people in small spaces and not wear masks and just be like, who cares? But again, it's so funny because these are the people that are voting for Trump, and this is the message that Trump is basically sending. Like, oh, it's not a big deal. Who cares? More people die from the flu. Like, it's a serious thing. Businesses are still shut down. Comedy clubs still aren't open. It's like life has not gone back to normal. Things aren't great. People are like countries all around the world are going back into lockdown. Like, coronavirus is a real thing. It affects everybody, not just Jews. And Jews gotta be a little bit more responsible, in my self-hating Jew opinion.
Well, hopefully a lot of these discussions will allow there to be more discussion amongst the Jewish community about how we can work with the outside communities to be safe and work together towards creating a community, and connecting with each other safely. Being able to celebrate safely. That's the whole thing, It's
celebrate safely. Hey, guys, we got a Patreon page going. If you want to see some more content, we have more with interviews with all of our guests, and we'll be putting on more and more content as more people sign up for the Patreon. So we really urge you to do this. It's patreon.com/American Jew.
And yeah, we've got a lot of great extended interviews up there. Most of our interviews with other comedians and other people have. It's hard to fit all the stuff people have to say into 18 minutes, especially, a nice Jewish person likes to run their mouth a little bit. So we put all those extended interviews up on the Patreon. And I'm actually
really excited to have our guest this week on the show.
Yes, very excited.
We've known her for quite some time. She's a comedian and a podcaster. So we're going to welcome Corinne Fisher on the show.
Very exciting.
All right, super excited to have comedian Corinne Fisher on the show. How's it going, Corinne?
Hi, it's good. How are you?
Doing all right. Known Corinne for a really long time, like 15 years or something.
Yeah, I knew you before I was a comedian, when only you were a comedian.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
And now you're doing so much better than me.
I wouldn't say that. Doing better is relative.
Oh, that's sweet of you to say, Corinne.
Yeah, he was. Actually, ironically, Jonathan was doing better back then.
I was, but let's not all get into it. Corinne, you were brought up Jewish, right?
Well, if you want to go technically, I was brought up with both, with Christianity and Judaism, and then allowed to pick, and then I just felt a lot more connected to Judaism. So, anything I've done that involves religion has been Jewish. I haven't done anything. I mean, besides I'll receive Christmas presents. But other than that,
because we talk about, on the podcast a lot, and I guess Jews talk about it, about how, you'll only be half Jew, half Jewish if your father's Jewish, or you're not really Jewish at all. But something that we've come to the conclusion in the podcast is if you want to be Jewish, be Jewish.
Right. We are very selective about who we let in. Well, I mean, and people did say that to me all the time because it is my father who is Jewish. And I will say, he's a super Jew. He's and he's also a very specific type of Jewish guy. He's 6'6". He has long hair. He's like a hippie, old school basketball player type Jew. He still wears tube socks up to his mid calf. It's a real look.
Wow, he sounds like an extra from that Will Ferrell semi-pro movie.
Yeah, but there's no question if he's Jewish or not when you meet him.
Yeah, because he's 6'6" and his circumcised cock is in your face. No.
And what made me definitely feel that I didn't have to feel weird about calling myself Jewish anymore is, number one, I got into Birthright No Problem, because their rules are, if one of your parents is 100% Jewish and you're not actively practicing another religion, you are allowed to go for free. And Jews aren't giving away shit for free just for no reason. I mean, especially because that trip is meant to make you want to fully convert to Judaism or even move to Israel. And then secondly, when I'm
Zionist propaganda.
It's like one of the few free things that actually leads with the fine print.
Yeah. And then the second thing was, in Israel, when I went to Yad Vashem, the Holocaust Museum there, they had Hitler's charts from the Holocaust. And by his charts and standards, if I was alive during the Holocaust, I would have been killed or taken to a concentration camp based on my DNA. So I'm like, if I could have been killed in the Holocaust for being Jewish, I never need to feel bad about saying that I'm Jewish ever again. And also people always think I'm Jewish because of my last name and my face. So
I'm just saying, you could have probably hidden it and still been killed during the Holocaust for your lifestyle.
Probably.
But I like that. That's a good litmus test. Like, hey, listen, if you would have been killed by the Nazis, that's Jewish enough for us.
Yeah. Everyone else, and my other very Jewish friend, he goes, oh, also the Jews would let you in because you're successful anyway, so you don't have to really fight your way in. And I was like, oh, that's nice, thank you.
Oh wow, okay.
Gilbert Gottfried always says,
really fueling some stereotypical tropes with that one. Sorry, you're not successful enough for this religion.
That's so funny.
You can have a free trip to Israel.
We'll take the good ones.
I wonder, let me ask you this. How old were you when you made the decision? Like when did that conscious choice come into play?
I would say I got really into Judaism when I was maybe like 12, because there were 12 years when I would do things like stay kosher for Passover and really not just not eating bread. Like I would truly go to the Passover aisle and really commit to it hard. It would annoy my whole family because no one else was doing it. They would just kind of celebrate the holidays in a really like relaxed type of way, where one day they have a celebratory meal and I was the only one committing hardcore. I was reading up on the religion. I was really like getting into it because I get very obsessed with perfection. So if I'm going to do something, I'm not going to half-ass it. And that did last for 12 years. Yeah, definitely. So, into my 20s, because that's when I went to Birthright and I was very into that trip.
Yeah.
I took it very serious. Everyone else was getting drunk. I was like, I got to get to bed, get a good night's sleep. We're going to go hiking tomorrow. Wow,
that does not sound like you.
Everyone has a different idea of who I am. And you also saw a very specific side of me because I was mostly like in party mode when I was around you.
Okay. So what was it about Judaism where you were brought up with Catholicism, Christianity, Christianity and Judaism, and why did you lean towards Judaism, you think?
Jewish people just seemed smarter and funnier, so I was just more attracted to the people. And then I liked the holidays better because every other religion has holidays that just seem like pure chaos and gluttony. And Judaism has holidays that I feel you actually learn things, mostly willpower from. That's what I like about holidays, even though they seem like not fun. I think they actually teach you a lesson and prove your own strength to you through fasting or keeping kosher. It really gave me a moment to actually reflect on things and to commit to something in a way that all the other religions seem to be phoning it in.
That's interesting. I'd never really heard it put that way, that all the other religions, their holidays are about gluttony and...
although other like white people, I'm not getting into things like Buddhism or like Islam, where I just would be like kind of a Hollywood nerd faking it if I was getting into those. But like the ones available to white people.
Right.
White people holidays.
Yeah.
Well, no, I guess the Jewish holidays are more like that. We were talking about that with Dan Natterman about how, religion now and a lot of Jews that aren't really identifying with the religious aspect of Judaism, how do we kind of keep these traditions alive in a secular way? And I think the way you expressed how you celebrate it is a great example of what, the future kind of Judaism is.
Yeah. Yeah, and exactly. And that's another point. Like, whether or not you believe in God, I think there's a lot in Judaism that is there for you. And another reason is because Judaism is something that can be like, you can be ethnically, and people never understand that. And my mom, God bless her, because she's the non-Jew, took a religions course because she went back to college while my brother and I were, when we got older. And, she explained it as, because the Jews didn't have a homeland. So that's why you can be culturally and religiously. That's the way her religions professor explained it to her. So that gave me a really kind of easy way to explain it to other people. And that's why you can be half Jewish, but you can't be half Catholic. And people will still fight. And I'm like, just listen to the Adam Sandler Hanukkah song. I really don't have any more time for you. Like,
that sums it up nicely.
Yeah, he's someone who can speak to the Gentiles. But because I'm a mutt ethnically. I also, came from a town where a lot of people were like, all my best friends were like 100% Greek, 100% Portuguese, 100% Filipino. So I felt like I was missing out by not having a culture. So Judaism kind of gave me all of that.
Have you ever experienced any anti-Semitism?
Oh, God, yeah. I mean, not so much directly towards me because I feel like because I am, people always think I'm Italian or Jewish, and it's because I'm both. So when people think I'm Italian, they will just openly say anti-Semitic things around me, and I'm like, gotcha, bitch, So it's good because when I lean into the Italian, it's like I'm a little spy for the Jews, and you can see all the anti-Semitism that really is around. Because there were years where people really didn't think it was a thing, and I'm like, no, I would actually say that almost everyone who's not Jewish is anti-Semitic. It's bad, it's rampant, but it's obviously we don't talk about it as much because the Jews as a people are doing pretty well, so no one feels bad. And also, Jews tend to care less, I feel like, because we live in our own bubble. It is a little bit of an elitist religion, which I do like.
It seems a little more acceptable to be anti-Semitic than it is to, hate or be derogatory towards other religions. And yeah, I guess we are the chosen people, which is part of the reason why people hate us.
Yeah. I was dating someone who was conservative a couple years back, and so I would see a lot of conservative nonsense on Reddit and stuff that I normally wouldn't have been exposed to. And that was way more anti-Semitic than it was, anti-Black or anti-immigrant for sure, because I think they realized or they had concluded that the Jews have a lot of power, even though it's a smaller group. And so they actually did fear it. That's why you see in these alt-right protests, the chants they're chanting is like, Jew will not replace us. And that really seemed to be like glossed over in the news. And I always say, like, when the alt-right takes over, they're going for the Jews first and then other groups. Yeah. Like, that's the one they're most concerned over.
No, absolutely. And, we've been talking about this, because obviously Trump is riling these people up. They all love Trump. And is Trump what do you think? Do you think Trump is anti-Semitic, or do you think he's not anti-Semitic? Because obviously he's doing good things for Israel, but he's not denouncing white supremacy, and he's saying shitty things about Jews when no one's looking.
Right. And it's weird because depending on who you ask, some people don't even consider Jews to be white. So it's like one group where like if we're talking about white privilege and you're a liberal, then Jews are white. But if you're talking about like the end of the country and when the alt-right comes, and takes over, then Jews aren't white. So it's like, number one, make a fucking decision. Yeah. because we only get like the bad sides of it. So it's like we're only white when it's bad.
These people can't even pick a reason why they hate us.
Yeah.
When they're marching with tiki torches outside your apartment, then you're not white.
Then lock the doors.
Yeah.
And take your mezuzah off it.
I feel like Donald. Well, isn't someone like in Ivanka's loop? Like, isn't her husband or something?
Yeah, she's
Jared Kushner's Jewish, and she converted.
Yeah, she converted to Judaism, and they're raising their kids Jewish.
Right. So that's why I feel like he can't be like super against it. And also just being a businessman, I'm sure he realizes the value of it. But I think he just kind of hates everyone, including himself, if we're being honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what Jordan's theory is as well.
Anyone who acts like that usually hates themselves. And also most people hate themselves. So it's not that much of a stretch.
Yeah. I mean, that's why he always has to go out of his way to defend himself when nobody's actually accused him of anything.
Right.
Because he actually has those feelings about himself and he projects them onto the whole rest of the world.
Yeah. And anyone who's just, kind of, and he also never can admit when he's wrong. And I don't know. The behavior.
Just like a Jewish mother.
The behavior he's exhibited in the debate was pretty wild.
I mean, I've always said my thing about Trump is that he's a man who so desperately wants to be liked and respected at any cost except being likable or respectable.
That's a good point. Very good point.
Yeah.
So, Corinne, when you went to Israel, was it everything you thought it would be?
I really loved it, and I thought it was beautiful, and the food was great. But The one thing that I don't know if I was not expecting it, but I just had never experienced it firsthand, was I feel like there was a tension in the air that I had never experienced in any other place in the world. And like, keep in mind, I'm not super well traveled, and that's part of the reason I took the free trip, because at that time I was broke and I didn't know if I could ever go to any other country at all. I think at that time, the only country other than America I had been to was Romania, I think.
Okay, wow.
It's random.
That was my college graduation present, because I wanted to go to Transylvania. So I begged my mom for years to go to Romania, which is also kind of Jewy.
Well, it's also sort of religious, It sounds like a pilgrimage of sorts, it
was a pilgrimage for my own, even my goth.
Exactly. You were just worshiping a different mythos.
Just a goth Jew.
Just a goth Jew. I mean, I feel like there was just a tension of kind of war. That you could feel and you could cut with a knife, and I had never experienced that anywhere else. And there was such a hatred against, a group of people that, these 16, 17-year-olds had never even met. But to have your head that clogged with hatred for another group of people so young made me a little bit sad.
Yeah, absolutely. I hear what you're saying. A lot of times I come in contact with young Jewish people, whether they're Israeli or not, and just they are indoctrinated to hate Palestinians, to hate Palestine. It's not even an argument. It's not even a discussion of what Israel has, done to Palestine. Of course, they're not the only bad thing that's happened to Palestine, but nonetheless, it's clueless. It's like an absolute evil. Yeah. Which is the problem.
Yeah, and because on Birthright you do have at least one or two Israeli soldiers assigned to your group, they say it's to kind of help immerse you in the culture. It also feels like a little bit of protection, and then it also feels like just a random hot, a lot of times dude. I had a guy and a girl.
Temptation is what it is. Yeah,
because he was really hot, and he definitely slept with at least one or two of the people on my group, if not more. I had a boyfriend at the time, and he was just he had heard stories about Birthright, and just was so sure I was going to cheat on him. And I'm like, you don't what? I'm not a cheater, number one. And number two, if I'm going to cheat on you, it's not with I'm really paranoid about sleeping with people in other countries. If I get pregnant from a guy in another country, I'm like, no, it's a bad plan.
I mean, this is already a guy that's so proud of being able to just fucking shoot it off anywhere he wants, Bang, 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 bang.
Yeah. and I kind of tried to have some really calm conversations with the soldiers about why they hated the Palestinians, and they just couldn't give me any concrete answer other than things that was obvious they had heard from the elders in their family, they're dirty, they're liars. It's just what?
Yeah.
You've never met these people. And it was so clear that it was just this propaganda being fed to them. It's I'm sure there's just as many nice Palestinians as there are Israelis. And also Israelis aren't even that nice. It's the only place where you're going to get yelled at louder than you're going to get yelled at in fucking New York City. Right. So thank God I was from New York, because they're screaming at you in markets while you're haggling for prices. So.
No, it's true. Israelis can be very rude and pushy, I think, and demanding.
Yeah. And I was prepared for that, because at the time, again, very Jewy of me, I was working at a talent management company, and we had a couple Israeli clients, and they themselves were actually nice, but I just had learned from phone calls a lot about kind of business in Israel. So I was prepped that it was going to be pretty aggressive.
Wow.
By the way, my sister totally fucked the Israeli soldier on our birthday.
Oh, did she?
Yeah, she did. So speaking of, men, do you find a difference between Jewish men and non-Jewish men?
Yes, and I would love to put my finger on what it is, because so much so that there was a time in my dating career when I actually vowed off Jews, because I was so into only exclusively dating Jewish guys, and then it was too much. I think it was probably knowing me based in the mom obsession, and there are a lot of cultures that have that, but specifically I was finding it more with Jewish men. And it tends the two groups of people I'm most attracted to are usually Latino and Jewish, and which is hilarious because my number one pet peeve is also being obsessed with your mom, and those are two of the worst groups to choose from if that's what you don't like. So yeah, but
you need a Sephardic Jew. That's what you need.
Yeah, that's a good point. I've actually, God, I don't even know if I've like ever met closely someone who was a Sephardic Jew. Where are they hanging out?
They're around. I think there are a lot in LA.
Okay, because I was like, I don't really meet anyone who's not Ashkenazi.
They prefer a hotter climate.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, there's got to be a Sephardic Jew in comedy.
There has to be.
Yeah.
Who would be? Is Randy Syfax Jewish?
I'm not sure.
That last name could be, and he definitely is some kind of. All right, well, we'll think about it. Yeah, so that's
at the end of the day, it all comes down to the perfect booking. Really, is what it's about.
Perfect booking. Yeah, so that's what I found. But I mean, there is just something. There's like it sounds weird because Jews are so neurotic, but I also do find a calmness in Jews. They do tend to be very good in bed. I can't even remember. I only remember one Jew who wasn't good in bed.
Well, because we're givers.
Yeah. Oh, is that? Yeah.
I mean, we care about making.
Is that what it is, Jordon? Is that you consider it tzedakah every time you make a girl climax?
I want to make sure I get some repeat business. I mean, you can only
see. There you go. Business. It's business.
Business. Yeah.
And you want to the want to succeed and be good at the things that you do, which I do think is a Jewish quality for sure. I don't really know a ton of I was going to say I don't know a ton of lazy Jews, but I was like, no, I actually do. But I think it's because they came from rich families.
Listen, I also know what my shortcomings are, and I go out of my way to make sure that that's not what the highlight of the takeaway is,
Right.
Jordan's still talking about sex.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I 100% processed it as such.
Well, speaking of sex, obviously you are a progressive woman sexually. You do the podcast, Guys We Fucked. Judaism kind of instills these values of modesty, the concept of shnius. Mm-hmm. I mean, of course, we're living in different times, but what do you think about, being Jewish and owning your sexuality?
Well, it's interesting because I do think if you're Orthodox, it's very modest as with all of the most excessive forms of any religion. But I also think for Reform, Jews are pretty open with their sexuality. And it is a trope that Jews are good in bed that I've heard enough times that it must have some standing, both for men and women. I've heard it.
Oh, really? Because they're not using those at the protests.
Yeah.
The rallies against Jews.
I know.
Great in bed. Making us look bad.
They buried that lead. Yeah, I mean, definitely I feel like you hear jokes about Jewish women being good at blowjobs and yeah. And then one of the lines from Hanukkah's song is Mary Tyler Moore's husband is Jewish because we're pretty good in the sack. So there's one for the men.
Okay. I feel like we got to talk more about these positive Jewish tropes.
Oh, it's funny
being good in bed. I don't know if giving a good blowjob is that a positive? I guess.
I mean, if you're the one receiving a blowjob,
but when you give a blowjob, do you have some level of pride? I want to be the best that's ever given this dude a blowjob.
Well, if you're gonna do it, yeah, do it well. But I mean, there is also something a little bit to me demeaning about giving a blowjob. But that's why that's not. A lot of people think that women are just going around giving blowjobs first before they have sex, and most women I know would definitely rather have sex with someone. If you're gonna hook up with someone you don't know that well, most women I know would rather have sex than give a blowjob for a lot of reasons. Because most times you can use a condom when you're having sex. If you're using a condom when you give a blowjob, I know in sex ed they say to you, but no one's fucking doing that.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? That's very I've never even heard.
I've never gotten a blowjob condom, and I don't think I ever will.
Yeah,
I don't think I'd take it. I wouldn't want it.
Yeah,
I'd be no. I don't even want to sleep with a girl if she makes me use a condom. I'm whatever.
I would rather jerk off with a condom than get a blowjob with a condom.
Oh, really?
I mean, it would save me the lotion.
That's true. That is true. Yeah.
Is that working into the Jews being cheap?
And the cleanup?
Easy cleanup. That's true. So where are you hearing these negative things about Jews in bed? Is that just like, because I know you grew up.
Oh,
like,
no, I'm just saying
religious.
Jews, like most of the Jewish stereotypes that Jews get are negative, not particularly the ones.
Yeah, nobody's saying these things directly to our faces, I think.
Well, I just haven't even heard, because sexually, even like, kind of the stereotypes for Jews I've heard have been positive. That's like one of the main positives besides being smart and having money.
Oh yeah, these fucking Jews, they're so good to their mothers.
Okay, I mean, I've heard the blowjob thing before, but I guess I never really heard the one or picked up on it about that Jews are really good in the sack.
Yeah, well, I guess it's,
I just thought it was me personally.
Sorry to take that away from you, Jonathan.
Damn it, I have so little, Corinne.
I apologize. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Well, growing up, it was weird because, like, I certainly didn't have money. Like, I'm from a super middle-class family. And so to have this stereotype of, like, having money, you're like, no, we shop at Target regularly. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. So.
Yeah, what do you think, these anti-Semitic tropes just persevered so much, even though they're not really true to the average Jew?
I mean, a lot of people, even in my hometown, like, I'm from New Jersey. It's not like I'm from the middle, Midwest or something. When I was in middle and high school, there wasn't that many Jewish people. Like I was one of like 10, who were open, and, I had a graduating class of 620, so it wasn't a small place. Okay. And like, I felt comfortable because people would just like to come up to me and ask me Jewish questions. And I felt really comfortable answering them. Because someone did in the middle of social studies class, we were doing, I guess, a class project where you could kind of ask like a little bit of like racist-y or ethnically insensitive questions. And one of the kids did ask, like, why are Jews so cheap? And I didn't mind. I was like, I would rather have you ask it here so that like I can answer it than you getting misinformation from, your grandma. Literally, my best friend is Portuguese. She's married to a Turkish man, and his grandmother truly thinks Jews have horns. Like, what? We're talking modern times. And
Crazy.
when you hear stuff like that, you're like, I mean, don't you think that would be a bigger news story if there were horned people walking around? Don't you think someone would be covering that?
I mean, that's why we're so
larger yarmulkes for sure.
That's why we're so cheap. We have to keep up that horn maintenance.
Yeah, what was your answer
to
why are Jews cheap? Yeah.
I said, I think this was, and I was like pretty young at the time, so I was proud of this answer. I said, I don't think it's cheap. I just think it's, we have a history of, a lot of things going wrong. So we're careful with money. And it was more like, the Native American or indigenous people culture where they would use every part of the animal. I think Jews just kind of use everything and try to not be wasteful. And so sometimes that is interpreted as cheap, because also while Jews will be cheap about some things, like, I feel like it is also a very generous group of people when it's someone's time of need.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Also, though, if you don't have to pay retail, why would you?
Right, exactly. I love Marshalls. I don't care how much money I have. I always go to Marshalls because you see stuff there and you're like, I saw this in the store for double the price. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with it here.
Shop around.
Overstock.com, baby.
Exactly. Free market.
Now I feel like we're just looking for sponsorship. Jews will like these places.
I love it.
TJ Maxx, where are you at?
Oh, TJ Maxx is so fun because I use retail as therapy, and you won't be sad the next day that you maxed out your credit card if you go to Marshalls or TJ Maxx.
Well, so how Jewish is
that's some good advice, Corinne. I just use therapy as therapy.
How
I go too, but I feel like that doesn't scratch the itch as much. Sometimes you're like, it's too logical. I need something that's creating more drama in my life.
I'm curious. You're the only guest I thought about asking this. I don't know if it's just because I feel comfortable knowing you so long, or it's because of your sexual podcast. But circumcised, non-circumcised. What's your opinion?
This is something we've talked about on the show a lot. I have never, except for this one guy that I'm not sure of because it was a penis like I've never seen before. No, but he's Jewish, so he has to be. He always throws me off because he's Jewish, but he's covered in tattoos. So it's a real mind fuck. But I've never had sex with someone who was not circumcised. Okay. So much so that one time we had a guest on who was uncircumcised, and he was a close enough friend that we were like, can we see your dick? And he showed us his dick because we were just so curious, and because we were such good friends that it didn't feel weird to ask, and he was totally comfortable doing it. Like, so I had only seen pictures before then because it feels weird, like you don't know how to work it. So I mean, my preference is circumcised, but only because I've never had sex with someone who was uncircumcised.
Okay, but you're not like opposed to it.
I mean, I'm not opposed to it. It just would make me nervous, especially having had sex for for this long at this point. To come across something new would make me nervous.
I'll just say,
it's scary. I don't even know how to work it.
It would probably be easier to figure out how to work it than watching a millennial try to figure out how to use a rotary phone, though. Like, it still has.
I haven't used a regular phone in so long. Never mind rotary.
Yeah.
I know you mentioned Passover, Corinne. What is that? Your favorite Jewish holiday, or what is your favorite Jewish holiday?
It's I don't know if it's my favorite. Well, if we're going by stories. I guess Passover is the story that, because it's so gruesome, but then, Rugrats also covered it. So how gruesome can it be? I think it's one of the most interesting of the religious tales that there is.
I've definitely missed that episode of Rugrats. Now I got to go back and watch the Passover special on Rugrats.
You did?
I haven't seen that.
That was a big one. I mean, I learned because the Pickles family was Jewish. I learned a lot about Jewish culture from when I was young from the Rugrats. I thought they did a kind of a delightful way of covering it. And because, Christmas is American TV shows are so oversaturated with Christmas that it was nice to have a Jewish family represented.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. It is so rare to have that.
Yeah.
It was good when Sandler had the movie. It was like, oh my God, a Hanukkah movie.
Right. And even the things I like, Rugrats or The Nanny or these are Jewish shows. They're seeping it in.
Yeah.
What's your favorite Jewish food?
I mean, probably matzo ball soup. I eat matzo ball soup so many times a year. And it's weird because I think it's such a standard thing, especially in New York City. And there are so many people who still haven't had it. So one of my great joys is bringing colleagues and friends to Veselka and watching them eat matzo ball soup for the first time.
Yeah.
Nice. Is that your favorite soup in the city?
I think so because I think because I had it recently. Actually, there's some in my refrigerator right now, and I just feel like their broth has more flavor because
it's
sometimes
so
it'll come out and there's not enough salt because diners in general usually offer a matzo ball soup as one of their main soups, but yeah, Renaissance Diner near Broadway Comedy Club used to have a good one too, but they went out of business. So
okay, the broth at Katz's is really good.
I do like the matzo ball soup at Veselka, but my favorite soup of theirs is their winter cabbage soup with the meat in it. Oh my God, that shit is also an elixir.
I've never had that because I don't eat meat anymore. But so wait, do they have? I heard my other Jewish friend said that he doesn't like borscht, but their borscht was one of the best he's ever.
They do make a good borscht as well.
It is pretty good.
Yeah.
Because I like
the Cellar's is the best, I think.
Oh, the Cellar, really?
They have amazing borscht.
The Cellar makes a good borscht. Yeah,
the Cellar has really good food, like Mediterranean fare, which I know is sometimes different. But I feel like hummus and stuff can be in the under the umbrella of obviously Jewish foods, even though sometimes I'll be like it's Lebanon or whatever.
Their mashed potatoes are very good too. Ooh, so good.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with Judaism, mashed potatoes, Jordon.
Yeah.
I know, I'm just saying.
Who is your favorite Jew, Corinne? Do you have a favorite Jew? Biblical, fictional, historical?
Oh, God. Houdini?
Oh, that's
Houdini.
a good one. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Houdini is probably out of people who influence me and that I love. I used to try to live my life like Harry Houdini when I was a kid because I was obsessed with taking out these biographies from my grammar school library. And
you were dating these men that just kept tying you up all the time, and it was like, I got to get out of here somehow.
Yeah, when I was 7. No, so two of the ones that changed my life from the Connecticut Farms Public School Library were the Cyndi Lauper biography and the Harry Houdini. Obviously, Cyndi is not Jewish, but she isn't, right? Yeah, no. I'm trying to think.
I'm not sure.
Pretty
I
sure her
don't
agent
know what
is.
religion Cyndi Lauper is. But yeah, Harry Houdini, and he like never drank alcohol and never smoked a cigarette in his entire life. And then he vowed that he would try to contact his wife after he passed away. He would like find a way. So I'm like, he's romantic, and he has a shit ton of fun even as an adult, but he doesn't smoke or drink. So for like years and years and years, like going in well into college, I never smoked a cigarette or drank because of Harry Houdini.
Wow.
Which sounds like a made up thing, but I swear to God, it's true.
And what changed? When were you like, fuck it, I'm drinking? Fuck Harry.
He came to her in a dream and was like, I didn't know what I was talking about. Go drink.
I mean, honestly, when I met your ex-girlfriend and we were interning at Conan, probably that internship,
that alcoholic friend of mine was just too much, and she shoved the alcohol down my throat. Okay, well, before we get into all that,
that was a wild internship, and it was the first time I was around like women who I loved who were a couple years older than me. And because I was I believe 19 at the time when I was interning at Conan, and enough people were 21. And it was the first time that like drinking was something that like, if you weren't doing it, you weren't part of, like you wouldn't be part of like this networking group almost. And so it was really business that pushed me more into drinking, because I realized if I wanted to succeed in the entertainment business in New York City, so much of it revolved around going and getting a drink after work. And like you can just have a soda, but then you see how people change. And I do definitely have a little bit of social anxiety, not because just because I don't like people that much. So I'm like, oh, here's a drink that makes you like people more. Like, this is great.
You heard it from Corinne right here. If you want to be in the entertainment business, you better start fucking drinking.
You better start pounding. And then also when I was working, and then, a couple years later when I got the job in management, there were so many events with open bars. And when you're not getting paid that much, you're looking to compensate yourself in other ways. So just like anything free sounds fun. And you would be getting, these $12, $13, $14, $15 cocktails for free. So one in Rome.
Yeah.
It all comes back to being free.
Free stuff is so nice. Like even in the beginning of comedy when you're not getting paid that much, but then you get a free meal. Even if I'm not hungry, I'm eating the meal. Even if I don't want a beer, I'm having it just because it feels good to get something for doing the work.
Yeah. I always, you take it to go.
Yeah, exactly. You take it to go. I would even take it for free. Even if I wasn't going to eat it, I would give it to a roommate. Just like I need the thing that you're offering to feel like I'm doing something here.
Exactly.
You're giving something away. We want it.
Yes.
We might not even need it, but we're taking it.
We're taking it.
Corinne, is there anything you'd want to plug?
Yeah. I mean, I have the, OG podcast, Guys We Fucked, with Christina Hutchinson. That's on Luminary, which is a paywall, but there's tons, 6.5 free years available on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts. And then my newer podcast, which is maybe 37 episodes in, with Joe DeRosa, called Without a Country. It's a political podcast. We kind of roast the news and take a look at it from the perspective of the extreme right and the extreme left. That's on Gas Digital, but you can also access it on iTunes and full video on YouTube.
Awesome.
And yeah, Corinne's on all social media.
Yeah, Philanthropy Gal.
Girl on everything?
Gal. Philanthropy Gal on everything.
Philanthropy Gal.
Yes.
All right, well, thanks for coming on the show, Corinne. We appreciate getting your perspective on things.
Yeah.
We hope you'll come back sometime and tell us if you've seen a uncircumcised penis yet.
I know. Well, it is always kind of like a crap. It's like playing, Russian roulette. You just never know what you're going to get. But so far...
I like it. She's unzipping the pants. She's like, this is going to be my time. I'm going to say the Shechianu blessing.
I'll text. You'll be the first one to know. I'll text you immediately.
Oh, thanks, Corinne.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, great to see you.
Hopefully we'll see you soon in person.
Of course. Bye.
Bye.
Big thanks to Corinne Fisher for coming on the show. Check out her podcast, Guys We Fucked. Check her out across all social media at Philanthropy Gal. You could check us out on social media at American Jew Podcast. You could check me out on all social media, including Venmo and Cash App at Jonathan Randall.
You can always find me on the gram at Beatnik Nudnik. If you have a moment, you can also check out my other podcast, Where's the Grief? And please sign up for our Patreon. There's really a lot of great stuff up there, and we look forward to continuing to put out Jewtastic content just for you. Thanks.
Have a joyous Simchat Torah.
L'chaim.